Hello and welcome to the CSN Mindset Monday podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the three M's: mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. Today is a special episode. I have with me a powerhouse of a dietitian, a colleague of mine that I'm proud to call a friend and professional in arms, Michelle Rager. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, for those of you that don't know, Michelle runs our North Hills office. And our North Hills office is kind of a unique setup, and we're going to dig into that in a little bit in here shortly. But to get started, I want to give Michelle a chance to give you guys a little bit of background on her. I always tease because she's the dietitian that has all the initials after her name. She even has more letters after her name than I do, and for good reason. So, Michelle, you want to give them a little background on your academic and your professional setup?
Sure. My husband actually jokes that I have more letters after my name than I do in my actual name.
Exactly.
But
I guess that's success, right?
So I've been a registered dietitian now for 15 years, and I have a little bit of a unique background in that I have not only worked clinically, but I've also branched out into a lot of other areas of nutrition in my career. So I started out with my undergraduate and graduate and internship. All my education is at Penn State, and so I'm a Penn State girl through and through. And then, started in the pretty traditional realm of working clinically in the hospital setting as a dietitian. And then I just had a moment when I thought, I think there's more out there, and I want to be making an impact in people's lives in a different way before they get to that hospital bed. And I'm talking to them about, what to do after something has happened. And so I thought, I'm just going to do something entirely different. And that led me down the path of really starting to work in the realm of retail nutrition. So I've been an in-store nutritionist for Whole Foods markets in the greater Pittsburgh area, working in consulting, and then ultimately in private practice. So I've had a chance to do a lot in terms of not just that clinical, working with people kind of on a one-to-one in an office setting, but being on grocery store tours and doing cooking demos and trying to figure out how what our expert advice means to people in their everyday real life setting. And so that, more so than even nutrition over the years, has become my passion, talking to people about what it means to practically eat in a nutritious and healthy way.
I love that. Tons of experience brought to the team, which is obviously something that's worth noting is that Michelle and I have known each other now for about 6 years. And when we met, she was doing the in-store stuff, and for those of you that have known me for a long time, if you remember way back when the company first started offering grocery store tours and cooking demos, and we worked with a couple companies and did food environment exposures, that was Michelle. She was the first person that I really contracted with in that way. And so her and I have been working together with Case Specific Nutrition as sort of the interactive name, we'll say, for 5 years. And so she's brought a lot of content and creativity and a lot of the ideas that are Case Specific Nutrition to our team.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good work together, and so like I said before, Michelle and I have a really unique sort of setup now, and it's evolved over these past 5 years. We originally met because we were both involved at the state level with the Academy of Nutrition, and we found ways to start working together and interacting, and in the form of cooking demonstrations and grocery store tours and counseling and corporate wellness endeavors. And so, like I said, she really has been integral in me developing those aspects of the business. But the reason the North Hills office is so unique is because Michelle actually owns it. So I personally run the Plum office and the Baum Boulevard location and the South Hills. And Michelle actually runs the North Hills office. And so it's built as what's called a licensing setup. And so the reason that that's so important is because once again, in our efforts to try and really help inspire dietitians that are motivated and to really find their calling in terms of practice, Michelle and I both saw a benefit of sort of a licensed or a franchise model, because there are our skills as dietitians. We have the clinical expertise, but we really are in school trained for this preventive model of care, right? We're trained in motivational interviewing. We're trained to help people before the problem. And so dietitians are shifting, and really should be shifting, towards this private practice model. And so Michelle and I put our heads together about a year and a half ago and started realizing that, hey, there was a way to inspire dietitians to start their practices while giving them support, and it was the Case-Specific Nutrition brand. And obviously, if we're going to grow the Case-Specific Nutrition brand across state lines and really start to impact millions of people, which is our eventual goal, we needed to be able to test out different models. And so I was really excited to do this with Michelle, because since we had already worked together for 5 years, I trusted her as a colleague and as a professional, and I know how great of a dietitian she is, and I know how great of a business person she is. So it was a really great opportunity for Case-Specific to sort of grow a new model, and her and I have been working out the kinks and trying to set it up so that we can make it easier for dietitians to practice in a way that they thrive, which will hopefully lead to us being able to get more dietitians on the front lines to help people the way we know they can. So when you go to the North Hills office, it's going to look, it's going to feel, it's going to be Case-Specific Nutrition, but Michelle is the brains behind all of that operation, which is fantastic. Like I said, I couldn't be happier to have a better partner to really work and develop this aspect of the business with. So thank you for that, Michelle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it. And I really think that, what's been exciting about working with Case-Specific Nutrition is that you are doing so many innovative things that now I get to be involved in my private practice. And being in private practice, what I really love about it is there's such flexibility in how we're able to personalize that piece of nutrition, and how we are able to focus on the client. Lots of times in other settings, it's all about the numbers and productivity and, getting people kind of in and taken care of and on their way. And here we're really able to spend that time with people to get to know them and what their needs are, and to figure out, hey, what is the best plan of action? What are the best strategies? And to then continue that relationship on, in some cases for many months, because that's the type of support and accountability that people need. So, we've been blessed to have that freedom.
Absolutely.
And I've so enjoyed working at the North Hills office, as part of that idea and philosophy.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I think that especially as people are becoming more in tune with the preventive aspects of their care, they start to realize that, to be honest, they should be seeing a dietitian more often. And we should probably be, in many ways, the central aspect of their care, right? Because we have the time to develop the relationship and really truly see their health from a big picture standpoint. And if you're thinking about health as who's going to be your quarterback, traditionally it's the primary care physician, but they spend 5 minutes with you every 6 months and are reading your file as they walk in the door. And that's not an insult to primary care. It's an essential service, but it's to show how overwhelmed they are and how flooded they are. And to be honest, it'd be much better off if people living with diabetes or people struggling with chronic diseases that can be managed with lifestyle would work with the dietitians. And then if we need the PCP for something, we can refer out. If we need an endocrinologist, we can make the recommendation. We become that that lifestyle. I always say we become that health assistant that can really help people navigate their wellness picture and then access. And the hope is that if private practice dietitians are helping people and engaging them and keeping their health as a positive focus outside of the biomedical model, we're going to reduce the burden on our healthcare system, which allows those then to focus on the things like autoimmune diseases and viruses and bacterial issues and the things that physicians are really supposed to be saving lives with. So the hope is that we can really play our role, and I think you said that very well. And the North Hills office is been able to do just that. I mean, you've got, and you can speak more to this. Michelle isn't the only one at the North Hills office. She has a couple dietitians on her team, and I think across the three of you, you really do cover all the expertises very well. So do you want to kind of speak to the expertise of the team a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's myself, and as you alluded to, I've got a couple of extra initials after my name. So one of them is that I'm an advanced practice dietitian, which means that I've worked with complex clinical conditions enough that for those people who really need that extra level of care, they've got multiple meds, they've got multiple conditions, maybe they've got something that's a little, less common and, not really sure how to deal with it from a food and nutrition standpoint. I'm able to work with those folks. In addition to my passion with working on people, working with people on lifestyle and just, figuring out food in a practical way. We've also got Leah Kuhn on our staff as well. And Leah is really great in working with people. You'll hear me talk about this in a little bit, but, working with people in a really approachable and step-by-step fashion.
Yeah.
So, Leah has been great in working with clients of all types. And then we also have Melissa Wilson on staff, and she is our certified sports dietitian. So in addition to the other types of clients I just mentioned, she is really focused on helping our clients who are more elite athletes and who have those goals for optimizing their sports performance in mind.
Exactly. And that is, as you and I have spent, long at length discussed, that is case-specific nutrition, right? The ability to really help all people from extremely complex, multifaceted illnesses to athletes trying to, really optimize their performance. We really do see it all and can see it all. And the North Hills office is no exception to that norm, and that is the standard that we've sort of developed and built as a group. I was talking with one of our other team members the other day, and I realized that across all of our offices and our team, we now have 20 case-specific nutrition team members and 14 dietitians. And every office has a sports dietitian, and every office has a dietitian that's obviously versed in the world of chronic disease management and that medical nutrition therapy. And so it made me realize that that's what we've been building, right? As a team, we've been trying to really set it up so that Pittsburgh, and now what we're trying to claim as Western PA, has access to every level of personal awareness and, pun intended, case-specific nutrition. So I love it. Well, enough from me. We don't need to hear my voice. I talk too much anyway. What I wanted to do, and as you know, Michelle, from some of the other interviews we've done, my goal is always to basically try and give some actionable items to our listeners. Try and have the listeners walk away with a couple things that are useful to them, maybe some mindsets, a fresh perspective. And you are a wealth of knowledge, and so with all your experience and your abilities, and the way you've helped people over the years, and help people now in the North Hills office, you kind of alluded to it with Leah. Can you give us? Let's do two. We can do one at a time. Let's do two things. Is what I'm going to ask of you. Let's give the audience two actionable items or observations that you think can really help them.
Yeah. So one is, I think, no matter where you're at with starting to think about making change or already, having changes in place, if we're talking about diets, which that means different things for many people, but, if we're talking about, incorporating some changes into your lifestyle in some way, the reason why I think so many people fail ultimately is because of two reasons. One, they don't have a support network in place that really helps them to figure out how to make those changes sustainable.
Yeah.
And two, they're making those changes in a way that is just really kind of, not a stepwise fashion. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like big sweeping changes, which for some people, for a minority of people, works great. They can just, change one day and never look back. But I think for a lot of people, it's really thinking about that sustainability. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage our listeners, no matter what type of health, wellness, food changes you're thinking about making, think about how you can take those in a stepwise process and think about how you can make those changes in a sustainable way. And obviously, plug for case-specific nutrition. Our dietitians are great at being able to help you figure that out. So for people who don't know where to start, even, in taking that first step or making that first change, we can provide that additional support and that piece of advice to say, hey, here are some of the places where you might be able to make the most impact and how you might be able to carry these things on into the future.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And it's, when you think about it, it's, you alluded to the controversial word that is diet, right? Where for you and I, we would call diet what you eat. Most people think of diet, they think of a restrictive, short-term, rigid reality. But it's part of the reason why the difference between a diet and lifestyle change is that lifestyle change actually has the desire to do things long-term, right? It's meant to be benefits that are beneficial now and beneficial later, not just, blinders on focus for a short period of time to get to a finish line. It's learning to live in a different way. And that takes time, that takes learning. And sometimes you need someone along the way, a health assistant, right? Like I like to say, a dietitian is a great health assistant to keep in mind that if we're going to put things in play, if we're going to, focus on a goal or focus on an intervention, that the intervention has purpose, right? For example, there's a difference between the people that come into my office and say, I've tracked food for 1,000 days, and the people that track food for 1 month, but during that tracking, learn about the spread of food that allows them to feel satisfied, or the setup of a day that sets them up to feel more hungry, or a pattern of days that may lead to them seeing that, there's a certain stressful meeting on a Tuesday that leads to different eating observations. And so there's the use of of us as the dietitians is we're going to make sure that anything that our people do focus on is actually going to have value and merit, and we're going to also help make sure that they're not just doing things just to do them, right? We don't have to force obligated awareness for just the sake of awareness. There's meant to be intention behind it, and that's exactly what we try and do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people sometimes do, you get stuck in that mindset of, I should go to the gym or I should eat this way. And sometimes we don't really think about the why behind that.
Exactly.
The why, that we think we should be doing those things. And I also, one of the things that comes to mind as you're talking about that is something I've heard you say, which is, think about your future self. Do you want to be able to have a piece of cake on your birthday? Do you want to be able to, do all these things? And I think, people don't necessarily always think ahead. Who is your future self? Who do you want to be? And what what type of quality of life are you going to have once these changes take place? And we can help people sort all of those things out.
I love that. No, it's the incremental steps. I think that's very well said. It's helping people find changes that have purpose, and then over time, let those things accumulate so that they feel great. And what's neat is when you do that, you actually feel the benefit. And as practitioners, we get to see that, which is what we love. We love to help people take something as complex and overwhelming as the vague term of their health and break it down into things that give them value and get them excited about themselves. So I love that. That was a great one. Do you have a second one ready for us? Am I putting you on the spot?
Well, over my years as a dietitian, I've also become very passionate about food as medicine. And so
a little Hippocrates, I see.
And so I talk to people about thinking about real foods whenever possible. And I know that, nowadays sometimes that can be a little bit of a loaded term, but really if we're all, thinking about the food that we eat and put in our mouth in the same way that we think about, this pill is going to help me lower my blood pressure, or, this other type of supplement is going to do X. I think oftentimes we kind of get lost in not thinking about food that way because it's something we need to do and it's something that is just kind of automatic. It's a habit, what we're eating. But really, we know that what we eat impacts so many things that we have in our life, risk there's so many types of chronic health conditions that are very common in our society. And so if people really start thinking a little bit more about food and how the food that they eat can really impact how they're feeling, how they're sleeping, whether or not they have energy, if they're taking a walk or doing exercise, and also that risk for those chronic health conditions. And if we think about that with the same seriousness that we think about some of the other recommendations that, say, the doctor might give us at our annual visits, I think we would all be a little better off.
Yeah, I love that, and that's I said Hippocrates earlier because that was I feel like that was like in our nutrition 101 classes, right? Decades ago, it feels like, where it was Hippocrates was the one that said food is thy medicine and medicine is thy food, and it's so true. I think we've gotten so detached because of, in part, the value that medicine has placed, has become in our world. We forget that our inflammatory process is literally stimulated and managed by what we eat. Right, it's managed by our omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, and so many aspects of our inflammation and our body's ability to process things, our immune system, our food really is the fuel and sort of the trigger that allows those things to work, or in many ways to dysfunction. And so, no, I couldn't agree more. I think you said it well. That's something that it needs to be reminded, I think, often is. Food is meant to be tasty, it's meant to be delicious, it's meant to be social, it's meant to be cultural, but in its most basic state, it's meant to be the thing that helps regulate who we are and how we feel, and can be that catalyst for immense success in terms of health and wellness, or it can be the thing that really, really breaks down and works against our success in health and wellness. So,
yeah, I think the beauty of food, though, is that, it's not about a program with supplements that you have to buy, or frozen meals or things like that. It can really be a simplified process, and so I think that ultimately that helps people to be able to work changes that we're recommending into their daily lifestyle, because it's just about food a lot of times. And so it makes it less complicated than some other things in our lives sometimes are.
I agree. And it's funny because I know you've heard this a lot too, how many people over the years that, initially the idea of, if, say you're going to go on a calorie restricted diet for the purpose of weight loss. So you go and you get one of those restrictive things where you heat up a packet of powdered soup and you eat a protein bar and drink a protein shake and then have a piece of protein with veggies. In the moment, if your extreme desire is to lose weight, that may appear easier than actually taking an honest look at why you are where you are in the first place. But to be honest, when you then have to think about that reality in your life, in navigating social and emotional and cultural occasions, birthdays and holidays, it all of a sudden becomes really obvious that that's going to lead to a lot of pain. It's going to lead to a lot of resistance. It's not going to be sustainable. And so while it initially seems easier, it's completely false. And the reality is, paying a little bit of attention to the value of food, as you said, ends up being that little extra effort initially that changes your life for the better, for good. And so it's that it's that, like, that old adage of the person that carries the pails of water to basically hydrate the town versus the one that spends a month building the system, the irrigation system. And by the time the irrigation system's in play, he's basically provided water for the entire village, where the person doing the pails is beaten up, broken down, and no better for it, kind of thing. So sometimes having those correct focus and a little bit of that sort of long-term foresight can make all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Well, I appreciate that. I think those are two awesome things. Is one, we want to take, we want to make incremental steps in our change, right? We want to set it up so that we find some, I always call it the low-hanging fruit, the things that can have value and bring positive things, aspects to our life and our wellness, and do the easy ones first and let those develop. And then also this, sort of a kind and gentle reminder that in all things health and wellness, food really is the first medicine. And that's one of the first places we should look when we're trying to, make adjustments to our health and wellness picture. So thank you for that, Michelle. I love that. Those were two awesome topics to share with everybody listening.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, I think we've taken enough of everyone's time today, and I know I've taken enough of your time. So I'm going to go ahead and do the end out spiel, which is I'd like to thank you for coming on and spreading your wealth of knowledge and sharing the information with all the listeners. I know everyone got a lot out of it, and obviously I hope to have you on again. If that's cool with you, we'll do that here in the coming months. And for everybody listening, I'd like to thank you as always for listening. Please subscribe to our channel and leave a review. And don't forget to share today's episode on your favorite social media, tagging a friend or loved one that would benefit, perhaps someone that would hit it off with Michelle and her insights. And don't forget to do your part by hashtagging Spread the Health. For more case-specific nutrition content, you can follow us on all of our social media at Case Specific Nutrition, and you can check out our website at casespecificnutrition.com. We will be back next week with another CSN 3M Mindset Monday. For now, be well and make the best of the week ahead.